Trinidad Chambliss is the third most accurate quarterback against the pressure in the country. But when he's kept clean, he's not even in the top 70. You heard that right. When he's pressured, he's the third most accurate quarterback in the country. When he's kept clean, he's not even in the top 70. That is the weirdest stat I've seen all day, but coming off the back of the weekend. So why do defensive coordinators keep blitzing him? There's a bunch that we'll get into. It's an identity standpoint from Oklahoma. It's also a Brent Venables thinking that a college quarterback's not going to execute at a high level on a consistent basis. But as we get into this first play, this is early on in this game for Ole Miss. Oklahoma, this is a familiar look that Oklahoma lined up with much of the game. Backers walked up tough, backers standing up, sometimes multiple linebacker or even defensive ends standing up, but muddying up this box. Why are they doing that? They're forcing the offensive line for Ole Miss to execute and for Trinidad to process and get the ball out of his hands quickly. This is early on in this game, and I think it set the tone for how aggressive Ole Miss's offense was going to be. And it gave Lane Kiffin a lot of trust and confidence in the game plan that Ole Miss had. Here's where it's at. I'll play the play first. It's literally it's a corner route to the top of the screen. Absolute dime by Trinidad. And when that's good coverage, and you Oklahoma faithful that are watching this video, you guys got on me all over X for saying that I didn't know football, and hey, when you blitz, we're purposely leaving guys open. That's a load of crap. If you're leaving guys open, this stuff happens. This is good coverage here. It's just a better throw. But I told you guys this past week, it was only a matter of time where Oklahoma got caught. They hadn't faced a quarterback as good as Trinidad. He made them pay. In weeks past, when you're facing Auburn, when you're facing South Carolina, and I know Lenora Sellers before the season was a great quarterback. They hadn't faced an offense that made him pay like this. The concept here, though, you got a little corner route to the top of the screen, a little return route by this slot coming here, and then a drag route by the receiver working left to right. As you guys just saw, Trinidad's going to put it right on the spot right there. Pre-snap, when you see Lane Kiffin and he's like running down the sideline because he already knows the play and he already knows exactly how it's going to play out. This is one of those examples where if you're Trinidad pre-snap as a quarterback, you already know you've won because you have an outbreaking corner route right here on an inside leverage safety. Inside leverage safety, he's so scared about getting beat across his face. You're going to have this all day long. If you're Brent Venables, again, you're banking on the fact that that's a long throw. It's a tough throw, got to be accurate, and you won't consistently execute this play in and play out. This is getting it done. Oklahoma blitzed Chambliss 21 times in that game. 43% of his dropbacks. It's the most they've blitzed anybody since 2022. Little call out because if you're watching this on a Sunday night or a Monday, you're going to hear that stat a lot all week. This is where people don't trust PFF and some of the metrics as much because even though a defense blitzes a linebacker, doesn't mean it's technically a blitz. And I think sometimes the stats lie there. Oklahoma brought 4 and 5 a lot, with one of those guys being a backer blitzing from depth, but then they would back out defensive ends. Again, forcing this offensive line and Trinidad to process. To me, the quarterback in me, that's not technically a blitz. But when I watch this film, I'm like, yo, how are they getting 21 pressures in this game? They didn't blitz 21 times. Well, they technically brought a backer 21 times. And I think that's where the PFF advanced stats are, saying it's a blitz. But to me, it's more of what they call a simulated pressure, where it looks like a blitz. Well, they're backing out guys on the other side. That's getting a little in the weeds. But regardless, again, this is where Trinidad is operating. This is where he's playing big time quarterback. And a criticism with Jackson Dart was like, oh, is he being asked to run the show? Obviously, he's balling in the NFL. But a criticism when he was at Ole Miss was, hey, is this really an offense that translates to the next level, translates to the NFL? When I see this play, This is Lane Kiffin putting a lot on his quarterback. And here's what I mean. Normally, you saw it versus Georgia. Normally, Ole Miss wants to just protect and hit deep shots down the field. This time, they know they can't get away with that because this defensive line looks like they're bringing pressure. What they know they have is one-on-one here in the slot. And this out route, again, versus an inside leverage corner or inside leverage safety, that's the winning route. I don't need a go ball with this corner staring straight at the quarterback. I love this outbreaking route by the slot, and I believe this was a third down. I didn't write it down. I think this was a third down. Reason I love it, though, is because they have Daquan Wright. If you guys watched my Ole Miss breakdown last week, you know I love Daquan Wright. He's a unique tight end for this Ole Miss offense. Oh, my leg just hit the cord. They don't want him pass blocking. He's a receiving threat. He can pass block, but look at this. Trinidad's going to change the protection. Oklahoma has 7 guys there in that blue circle. He's going to bring Wright over to the left side to then block against this linebacker who's blitzing. He's recognizing the blitz. He's helping himself out by bringing a tight end over. He's going to have his running back then blitz or block this linebacker who's rushing on the bottom of the screen. Defensively for Oklahoma in the box, again, we just talked about it. Simulated pressure. They're bringing 5 here, so not to go back into the weeds there. They're bringing 5. They have 7 guys lined up in the box. They're going to drop 2 linebackers out. The reason I love this so much is this is Trinidad processing at a high level. Not only is he recognizing the coverage on the top of the screen, but he's like, yo, I got a wide open receiver if I can protect myself. Again, you Oklahoma fans were getting on my skull on X being like, oh, Max, no shit. If we bring pressure, you're not going to have time to get rid of the ball. Well, when you're facing Ole Miss and you got a quarterback who can protect himself and say, hey, I know you're bringing pressure. Let me get my guys in the right spot to protect myself. Well, then you're leaving your secondary vulnerable on an island with an outbreaking route. Again, with all that going on, look at how he moves over right to protect himself. He's like, oh, I'm not good. Let me protect myself. They're bringing heat. Motion him over. Clean pocket, ball out, easy pitch and catch. But there's a lot more that goes into that. And when you complete a throw like that, if you're Lane Kiffin, you're like, yo, we're cooking with gas. That's the terminology. Yeah, cooking with gas allows the offense to open up even more. Another creative concept I like here. Again, Oklahoma, you're not really sure what you're going to get if they're walking up these linebackers. They got only one. I didn't mean to circle it that bad or that big. They have one linebacker walked up here. Oklahoma loves to play games. One way to get a defense out of their game is put 4 receivers to one side. 1, 2, 3, and then the running back is the 4th receiver. Why does that get a defense out of their game? Because when you send 4 receivers to one side, you have to make sure a defender goes with him. So then this backside safety who's on the other side of the hash, he now has to run and be the 4th defender with this running back out of the backfield. Why does that matter? Because when you have a backer walked up and a safety leaving his side of the field, that leaves a lot of green grass for a slant backside. Little thing ends up being a big thing. That's where they hit it. Slant to the top of the screen. Easy pitch and catch. Trinidad's great timing, getting the ball out of his hands, and it's making Oklahoma pay for standing linebackers up and trying to do a lot rather than staying in their base defense. Trinidad threw for 128 yards and 1 touchdown when he was facing extra pass rushers on Saturday. Here is the 1 touchdown. This is this has to be they're bringing 7 or bringing 6 on this play with this linebacker. Trinidad makes him pay. I'll play it first so you get an idea of what's going on, then I'll break it down. Little play action. Trinidad's buying some time. Escapes. Again, not to belabor a point, Oklahoma fans, not trying to get on you, but again, It is not a sound defensive strategy, blitzing and leaving guys wide open. It might work versus Auburn. It's not working versus Ole Miss because stuff like this happens. Boop, wide open, touchdown. Here is the concept here. Boom, into the flat. Z working the over. X working the over to the other side. And then a little delay right here on the other side of the field. Obviously, he hits this tight end on the delay. Sorry, messy drawings, but you get the point. They're bringing pressure. Trinidad manages that pressure, gets to from his front side all the way to his backside for a touchdown there. That is big time, big time. And so naturally, when you're seeing that, you're like, Max, why would Brent Venables continue to pressure Trinidad if he's having this much success? I think it comes down to two things. One, it's part of Oklahoma's identity. So they've had success with it all season long. You're not just going to switch in a moment's notice. And then two, at the college level especially, you're banking that a college quarterback will eventually make the catastrophic mistake. Eventually will make a poor decision because the pressure's on him. Eventually will try to force a throw in there, and that's where you get him. And Trinidad, what was his stat line there? He had no turnovers that game. So that's clean football, and Oklahoma was very much in that game down to the wire. Speaks to the high-level quarterback play that Trinidad had. Venables going into this game was 30-7 against true freshmen and redshirt freshman quarterbacks. And I know Chambliss is not a true freshman or a freshman, but I say that in the context of he's coming from the Division II level. They were not doing exotic blitzes to this level at the Division II level. I guarantee you that. So this was a different kind of test for the quarterback. So there was a body of evidence there of Venables saying, "Hey, I've had this package before. Let me bring it to the park versus this guy and see if I can make him pay." Last couple ones for good measure. Point I want to drive home with this one is you've been bringing pressure all day if you're Oklahoma. This is where Oklahoma gets caught in no man's land, where these two linebackers, they're not blitzing, they're not in coverage. I guess they're spying, but not really. And you get caught where those linebackers not really being a factor in this in this play at all. But on the outside, you're putting your corners and man coverage with a single high safety. That's tough because if I have two linebackers not doing anything, well, then rush the passer. At least put some heat on this quarterback because I have my corners on an island. All right, you don't want to rush the passer? Well, then I'd rather have these guys in coverage to then help out your corners. That's a byproduct of Trinidad getting the ball to his hands quickly the entire game and passing every question to the test, so to speak. And then, sorry, I didn't play this one to start. He's going to hit this slot fade for a home run shot. And then just for fun, where's Kiff? Kiff's right here for those of you guys that can see it. He knows he's got one-on-one, so he runs after this deep shot. But look at those linebackers. They kind of get caught in no man's land, not really doing anything. One-on-one shot down the field. That's where it takes a toll. If you're blitzing the entire game and don't get home, well, then guys start slowing up, not being as aggressive. And then the weakness, this is the game plan. I think going in, Brent Venables was saying, hey, we're going to heat things up on the quarterback. And that's where our game plan is going to be. But when you have linebackers and defensive ends standing up, you leave yourself vulnerable in the run game. And I think Venables said, hey, we'll take our chances with the Ole Miss run game. And Kewan Lacey, that dude is a baller and might be the X factor of this Ole Miss team if they ultimately make a run because he was breaking tackles. This was the perfect example. You got linebackers standing up. This was the first touchdown in the game. He gets quickly through that first level. That's always the trade-off. You love how aggressive this defense can be in the blitz game, but you can leave yourself susceptible in the run game there. End of the day, Trinidad averaged 293 yards passing against Oklahoma, Georgia, and LSU. It's gettable for Ole Miss in the SEC. The Citadel. Don't sleep on the Citadel. I called a Citadel game last year versus Clemson. No, I'm just messing. You got South Carolina. Grand scheme, I don't know if that's home or away. I'll have to check. But grand scheme of an SEC schedule to have South Carolina, Florida, and Mississippi State, that is very much gettable.